I can get on that.
Members, we're going to just delay things a little moment while you get a PDF sent to you to have a look at the confidential item before we conclude, okay? So just relax for a second, okay? Right, we've got major changes today. I do apologise. We're going to start off the meeting, gentlemen and ladies. And then we're going to stop for exclude members of the public and switch off the recording because we've got some confidential items which need to be discussed. We haven't got time to do it at the end of the meeting, so we'll do it immediately we finish the opening address and the apologies and the minutes of the last meeting. So we'll kick in with apologies, please, Julie.
Apologies, Chair, from Mr Hughes and Mr Afsar.
Any more apologies from anybody? No, nothing from Ross, Keith?
I wasn't at the meeting this morning, so collectively we must give apologies.
Right, okay, absolutely. Minutes of the last meeting. Oh, sorry, declaration of interest first. Any declaration of any interest? Right, the minutes of the last meeting, pages 1 to 6. Have any members got anything to bring forward, reference those minutes? Yes, Chair. Anne?
Yeah, no, just to accept them as read.
Is that everyone? Thank you very much. Right, that brings us then to, I'll just have to read the script. Right, I'd like to move that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business which involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in the paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A as amended of the Local Government Act 1972 as indicated below. Thank you. So if we can switch the recording off, please. Right.
Are we being recorded?
Are you all ready, everybody? As the recordings in action? Right, I'd like to welcome you back to the open part of this meeting. We've gone through the apologies and the minutes of the meeting. So we're now into agenda item 4, which isn't, as it says, the annual audit letter. It's the actual progress. It's written quite wrongly, just a slight error, but I think we've got Hassan here from Ernst Young. I'd like to welcome you to the meeting. Hassan, would you like to kick off, please?
Thank you, Chair. So you do have 2 items from us on your agenda. The first one is our progress report, which outlines the position on the 2021 external audit. It highlights that there are 4 areas of consideration primarily. The first being completing of some elements of our testing of other income, other expenditure. The second in terms of the review of the going concern assessment. So we undertake that review closer to the signing off period because it goes up to 12 months from the date of sign off. The third relates to completion of whole of government accounts procedures, and we complete those procedures once we've concluded all of our work. And the fourth, which relates to a national issue on infrastructure assets. So it's been highlighted that the accounting for infrastructure assets are a number of upper tier authorities. There are issues relating to the derecognition of assets, and the point there in respect of the information which authorities have to account for that particular element. It is subject to a task force which SIPFA has set up. They provided a report towards the end of August where they highlighted the actions which they were looking to take forward couldn't be progressed in the manner in which they wanted it to be, and they've now gone out to consultation in relation to that issue. We've had discussions with the council's finance team in terms of the way forward. At this moment in time, we're waiting. The council's finance team wants to wait for the resolution of that consultation exercise in terms of actions which may be coming in terms of overrides for the accounting for that particular element of the accounts. Happy to take any questions on the progress report before I move on to the pension fund audit plan.
Thank you. It is just a quick one, probably for my understanding more so than anything else, if I can. When we look at the material infrastructure, if there's a significant amount of disposal of assets, so where buildings have been divested or sold off, how is that acknowledged in this part? And is that going to be impacted on what some of the outstanding items are that we're waiting for Stafford to clarify?
This particular element in terms of infrastructure assets relates to highways infrastructure, so the road networks, and in its simplest form, authorities have, in terms of accounting for the highways, have just had it lumped together as one, as opposed to individual components. So the issue from an accounting point of view comes about in terms of if you're replacing an element of a road, how do you, have you properly de-recognised the elements that you've replaced? And if you haven't got the information there to say what part of the network does that relate to, that's where the issue has arisen from. So it's not to do with your property portfolio, it is the highways portfolio.
Good morning, Hussain, and thank you for coming today to start with and responding to our letter. Anyone who was there at the last audit committee will remember we all felt deeply upset that we didn't get a report from you. So firstly, thank you so much for responding, and it was nice to see that the capacity shortage was recognised in your letter, so thank you for that. I think you missed the point just very slightly. We were expecting a written plan of progress, really, is what we're saying. And so it was a little bit disappointing that we still didn't get a plan of progress as such. But I do thank you very much for being here today and for trying to move this forward now.
Thank you. Following on from this meeting, if the committee wishes, we can set out a timetable in terms of when we are looking to get elements of the outstanding work completed. However, the caveat to that is in respect of the infrastructure assets, where the timetable, so the issue kind of arose earlier on this calendar year, and it's taken a significant amount of time in terms of the consultations that are happening at a national level to resolve the issue. And so whatever timetable I come up with might be caveated in terms of once the guidance has been issued.
Thank you. Yeah, and absolutely agree. This is a big issue, but we still would like to see that. Yes, thank you. Great.
Oh, thank you, Asana. Thank you for your... Oh, sorry, Graham, I didn't see you. Go on.
Very quickly, Chair. In any update, if it could just be a simple email rather than a very expensive report, I think we'd be grateful. Thank you.
Government.
Yeah, we know we don't have to pay for a solicitor's letter, do we? Is that what you're saying? No, thank you, Sanford. Thank you for having to wait until we start the agenda proper, but thank you for coming today. And
No, he's the next one as well. He's got one more.
Oh, is he good?
Pensions.
Oh, sorry, the pension fund. Yeah, you've got that one. I think that's probably as simplistic as this one, is it?
Yeah. So the next paper on your agenda is our audit plan for the audit of the pension fund for the financial year 21-22. Just briefly take you through the plans. So page 11 of your pack, some highlights for members information the key risks which we'll be focusing on in respect of our work on the pension fund audit and how they compare to the prior year. Your page 12 of the pack outlines the materiality levels that we'll be applying in terms of undertaking the pension fund audit. Section 2 of our report provides more details in relation to the risks that have been identified that are highlighted on, that are summarised on page 11. Section 4 of the report provides details of the audit scope, which we're going to be undertaking our audit against. Section 5 of the report provides information on the team, including our use of specialists, and within the appendix within the report it outlines the fees, which include the scale fee which has been set by the PSA, our view of what the fee should be, and we highlight there that we'll be having a discussion with management before coming back to the audit committee on any final fees. Our work in respect of the pension fund audit is currently in progress, and we're looking to get our IS 19 assurances out to other scheduled bodies of the pension fund out by the end of September. But again, happy to take any questions on the audit plan for the pension fund.
I'll start for a change. This one really did jump out at me, that the scale fee for 22,000, but then the regulatory requirement for scope of extra work on risk was nearly 29,000. Could you justify that for me, please?
It's our view that the scale fee to undertake a audit of a pension fund, given the level of investments that the pension fund is responsible for, and the complexity of the work which is needed to be undertaken in assuring ourselves in relation to the disclosures and the balances which are reported within the pension fund financial statements, that the scale fee is not sufficient. So our view of the additional fees that are required are highlighted within the report. Any additional fees from the changes from the scale fee have to be approved by the PSA. So, and also, as I said, that we do discuss that with management. So if management was to disagree with our view, and if the audit committee was also to disagree with our view, then we would submit it to the PSA as a fee proposal, which hasn't been agreed by management or the audit committee. But as I said, the level of fees in terms of the scale fee, we don't think is appropriate to properly undertake a audit of the pension fund in line with our statutory responsibilities and in line with the requirements of the code.
Very quickly. So just so I can understand this, it's fine to over double it for the 4 areas that you really need to look at. Is that what you're saying? That is quite normal.
We're saying that the actual scale fee is at the wrong level in our view. So it might look as if it's being doubled, but if you're looking at the scale fee, £20,000 to undertake a audit of the in terms of the magnitude of the pension fund's actual statements, in our view, is not appropriate.
I understand better now. Thank you, Hussein. Yeah, I can agree with that. 22,000 isn't a lot to undertake the audit. It's just how it's written. It kind of, I felt it meant 29,000 more for 4 items. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. This might not be anything to do necessarily with the audit process or anything else like that, but I noticed that changes in business and regulatory environment is one area that you see as risk coming up, and you've got to try and do that more potentially why the reason for the extra funding and everything else, because there's more information and more, shall we say, uncertainty out there than there might be at the moment in terms of how you're doing the investment. So I just wondered whether or not there's any idea that we could do more internal investment within the county itself and to support districts and things like that within the pension fund portfolio. Would that not reduce risk slightly, and therefore would hopefully mean that you also get paid more money for doing something that we can then fit our strategy around, both from this committee but also the long-term strategy of the council itself? Because I think quite a lot of the levelling up funds and all our process, I've been involved with that, and the one thing I found was being prepared, a bit like being a scout, I suppose, but I found that some elements weren't as good as they could have been when the county council were supporting the districts within their LUF fund structures and everything else. Now, I know it's not directly related necessarily to the pension fund and its investment, but I do think that we have to look at it as a holistic element of just how we are going to try and achieve our objectives over, the coming years. And I just see that other councils and others are looking at more internal investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question. Is there any chance of any outside bodies infiltrating into our pension scheme, any cyber attacks or anything like that? Are we fully covered that nobody can...
I think taking the last question first, I think in terms of the arrangements that the council have for cyber security and protecting itself in respect of the investments that it makes would be one for getting assurance from management in the first instance. On the first point in terms of the working with districts from a pension fund point of view in terms of the external audit of the pension fund, then our responsibilities are to provide assurances to the auditors of the pension fund for the purposes of their audits, as opposed to how the pension fund works with its scheduled bodies, and then from the work that we undertake, we're undertaking work to come to an opinion on the level of investments that are disclosed within the financial statements of the pension fund being one element of that. And there are, as you'll see within the pension fund's financial statements, the fund invests in a diverse nature of schemes. So there are more risks associated with level 3 investments, which are the hard to value investments, such as private equity, for example, and they're the areas where there are increased procedures required from an audit perspective in order to come to gain assurance about the levels of the levels at which they are reported.
Thank you, Chair. In section 3, I think that we're looking at the materiality, and it's got a planning purposes of set planning materiality for 21-22. 68.3 million represent 1% of the pension's current fund. Is that an industry standard? Is that something that is appropriate to the council? And I think there's a comment at the bottom of that infographic there that says, we request that the Audit Standards Committee and the Pension Committee confirm their understanding of and agreement to these materiality and reporting levels. Is that something that's been done? I was trying to have a look on the timeline to see if that's something that's already been addressed.
Thank you. That's what we're asking you to do. I should have made reference to that. That's something which we're asking you to do today. In terms of the percentage that's used to calculate our materiality levels, it is in line with what other external auditors use. So we do, in looking and setting our materialities, first and foremost, our methodology is based on what we believe is right to gain assurance, but in comparison to others, they also use similar levels to calculate their materiality levels.
Thank you, Sam. From my perspective, I agree with Caroline. I think the scale fee for £22,000, I mean, if that was £50,000, I think I'd be more understanding. I just think that's such a low figure with the amount of assets, and just evaluation of the land and the assets would be, I would think, cost more than 22,000. But obviously, you're due back on the 13th of December. I think, speaking on behalf of all the committee, I think we'd like to know if there's any prospect of actually having that final audit letter by the 13th of December. Do you think there's a chance of that, or are we still doubtful? Thank you.
I think, as I said earlier, probably the caveat would be in relation to what happens on the infrastructure assets and any guidance that's issued by SITFA and any statutory override that might be coming from DLUC as well in respect of that. So it's a bit of a watch this space on that one.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very difficult one to answer, really. Yes, I do apologise. But thank you for your attendance today, and safe journey home. Thank you. Over to Debbie now, I think, aren't we? Yeah. Agenda item 6.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the regular agenda item looking at the forward plan of this committee for 22-23. Page 44 of your pack highlights what is due to be scheduled for the next Audit and Standards Committee, and this report really does give members an opportunity to comment on the future agenda items. So, Chair, that's really all I need to say. If there's any questions in relation to what's coming up.
Janet?
Thank you, Chair. SEND issues and the SEND transformation is the one part that I wanted to have a look at. I think in April 22, we had some contributions for that part, and trying to establish when and how soon we could try and have an update on SEND issues. I would add, for the benefit of everybody else on the committee, that at the moment, SEND issues within my division actually contributes more to my inbox than potholes, to give you some indication. And I have increasing concerns that the reassurances that we might have had previously aren't necessarily filtering through. Now, I do appreciate contextually, nationally, there's also issues for SEND, but I'm concerned about Staffordshire and in particular, Lichfield City North. So if we could have an opportunity to have an update on the SEND transformation, and also following the last Ofsted report, which showed that there was some progress, but how that is being experienced by parents, in my opinion, is a very different issue. And if we could have that, that would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Chair, just to say that Tim Moss was scheduled to come to the next Audit and Standards Committee. He did ask for that to be deferred purely because of his availability. However, I can go back to him and at least ask for somebody to substitute him for the next Audit and Standards Committee, if that's possible. So Julie and myself can liaise with Tim to get that sorted.
Yeah, I think obviously Janice and John, two members have got quite about that, so yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't have to Tim, it could be somebody else who's obviously 2IC, whoever.
Yeah.
And obviously, are we looking at the April committee for what was spoken in confidentiality?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much for not giving me any more work to do. That closes the public part of the agenda. So
Okay. You have to read it again.
yeah, I'll go to you now. Thank God. Thank you. Thank you.